Okay, so I have my crisis data loaded up into the Power BI desktop, and let's just take a peek at a couple of things before we get going on creating the data visualizations. Notice on the left these three icons. So I have the table relationships that I can look at here. And in this visualization, I'm just working with one table. We did the one spreadsheet from the crisis data, which is a good place to start. So it's not crazy interesting to look at, but you can just see that here are all of your fields. And if we had additional tables, we might see how those tables are linked together. But for right now, we just have our crisis data table. Here I've got the spreadsheet view. So I can go back and look at the full data set. And sometimes when you're doing the visualizations, you'll need to go back and take a look to know which fields you want to select and that type of thing. And then finally, we can toggle up here on the left to the visualization area. And so on the right here, you can see you've got different types of visualizations. You'll notice these little arrows. You can close this out, and you can close out your fields where we have, again, our different field names for our data set. You can close that out. And then we're going to usually want those open. So I just want you to see how to open those back up if they hide on you. Okay, so I'm going to start with a basic visualization, just a stacked bar chart. And this is actually, it's a simple one, but it's very useful. And it's really nice data visualization to use. More complex is not necessarily better. I think the most important thing is that it's readable and can be understood. I think that's more important than it being a complex data visualization. And so in my report, if you recall, I had looked at the count of incidences by precinct. So on this bar chart, I'm going to make the axis the precinct, and you see it up here on the left. Nothing's there yet because I don't have any values. And I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to get the counts of incidents that occurred. So I'm going to pull over here, template ID, and I'm going to make that the value. All right. And you'll notice if you click on this little drop-down arrow, that it's giving us the count of template IDs that occurred. And that's actually what I want, because I just want to see the total number of crisis incidents that happened, and the template ID is the primary key on this data set. And so that is what it's doing for me. It's counting the number of incidents that occurred in the different precinct. But you can see there's other summary functions that can be selected, but really count is the only one that makes sense in this particular case. Now, if you notice up here, it says template ID by precinct. I do find it's a little difficult to change this name template ID unless we change it on the field name over here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And so if you click on these dots, you'll get an option to rename. And I'm going to call this count of incidents. All right. And so it moved that up because this is sorted alphabetically. So my new field got moved up here, count of incidents. Now on the report that I put in Blackboard, I had not done that. So the name's going to be a little different. You learn things every time you go back and try to recreate even your own report. Okay. All right, so now I've got this. And notice that if I hover over any of the bars, it gives me some information about the counts of incidents. On this visualization, I can also format. There's just a million options in here, so you can kind of scroll through them and see. I don't usually make any changes on the general format options. I mean, you can change the color of your bars if you want to. I think the default color is pretty good, so I'm going to leave that alone. So your data labels, Now, if you turn this on, you'll see that it gives you the numerical values, and I think that it's fine to leave that on. I don't think I had it on my final graph, but it's perfectly fine. The plot area, I haven't played with this a whole lot, but you could play around with that if you want to. The background, you could make that a color. Again, we don't want to get too crazy with colors, but just know that that option is there. Now, what's happened now is I've clicked outside of the box, and so you'll see this has changed. So when you want to format in this particular graph, you have to be clicked in that graph. So you'll see if I click in and click out, it's a little finicky like that. So it's a subtle point, but it's one that can make you it can be a little frustrating when you're first working with Power BI, when you're trying to do a format and the format options keep changing. So you have to be clicked on the tile. All right, so here's the format options. Again, you can add a title if you want. This is where you can be a little more creative with your font color. Power BI tends to make everything really small, which might not be an issue for some of you guys, but I have difficulty reading it, so I usually have to come in here and blow up this font a little bit. I find that 13 is most readable for me. 13 or 14. Okay, and so that's how you do the count of incidents by precinct. And I'll do another video showing you some of the other bar charts I used and also how I put the slicers in. The slicers are kind of fun to work with. All right, so I will stop here and we'll pick up with a couple of more visualizations in the next one.